Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Okay, this is Johnny on the Spot, science reporter for the Real News Network, and I'm back here again with the Teenage Super Sleuths. We've got Professor Unknown Backflip and Home Run, and once again they sent me some information that they wanted me to cover. And they were telling me that there seems to be a collusion, and I know what that word is because of the Russian collusion with President Trump that was proven to be a hoax. And you say that kind of major league hoax is also applicable here with climate change. And you're saying that earlier in earlier videos we highlighted how the media was all worried about a hiatus in warming, and now you're saying that they've adjusted the RSS data, and now you're telling me that the media kicks it into high gear, and now they start publicizing that the hiatus never happened. Is that right? Was that what you're telling me?
Yes.
And this is this is what you show me. It's like now that NASA has adjusted their data, now all these scientific organizations get behind it and say, see, just like I pulled a rabbit from a hat, the warming never happened. But you said we went back and got onto that time machine, and we were able to show that yes, in fact, they did alter the data, and so it's not really an observation that we're talking about; it's an adjustment that shows no warming.
A fraudulent adjustment to data.
And so you're telling me that you have other stuff that raises suspicions about how really good science these scientists are applying.
I think you meant magicians.
Or sophists.
Sophistrists.
Okay, and here's this. This is Stephen Goddard. He's the Tony Heller from Real Climate Science, and he was responding to someone, and they were telling about how high CO2 was going to cause destruction on Earth. And Tony Heller points out that, by the way, look in your geological history, CO2 used to be much higher. We never had runaway global warming, and look how lush the land was.
Yes.
Carbon dioxide is plant food, and the more CO2 you add, the more plants you
life thrives during CO2, isn't that right?
Yeah, and plant yield goes higher. Now, Backflip, you concur with that?
Yes, I do concur with that.
All right. And the other thing down here is they always use this thing that anybody who questions authority
is garbage.
They always say paid for by the fossil fuel industry. Have you been paid for? Are you being paid by the fossil fuel industry?
Never.
Never?
Never accept that junk.
Okay. Any of the research that you've been showing, like from NASA or NOAA or that long-term geological record of CO2, was that paid for by the oil industry?
Nope.
So what you're telling me...
We've been taking information from Al Gore.
Yeah, Al Gore even helps make the arguments. Al Gore, by the way, if he's scared of sea level rise, why is he buying his home on the coastal plain? Mm-hmm. Maybe because he knows California sea levels are decreasing, not increasing.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's playing his cards right. But you were also telling me that the purpose of these videos, that you wanted to make sure that people are empowered to search for the truth, so they don't have to listen to their teacher spew this nonsense. They can go to NOAA, they can go to NASA, and look this data up themselves. Mm-hmm. And you're going to try to start the classroom rebellion. Say that science needs to be about the truth, not politics and propaganda.
And how come every time someone argues someone like Tony Heller, it's always...
They call you like a denier or something like that.
A fool.
A flat earther. Well, I don't think we're flat earthers. I think we're using pretty good science here. Okay, now look here. This is another one, and this is from what you said were called the ClimateGate emails. And Phil Jones is the one guy that you said ran the CRU unit. And he says, so if we could reduce... Now, this is scientists talking about adjusting the data. Now, normally, if you adjust the data, you do it because there's some kind of instrumentation issue, right? You would never want to adjust the data to get a desired outcome, right?
Yeah, why would you want a bad desired outcome?
Yeah, I mean, if a drug company altered their data to make sure that their drug could pass the FDA approval, wouldn't we throw their CEO in jail?
Yeah, Phil Jones should be thrown in jail. Let's see what this email is about.
Well, this is what he's writing. He's saying, so if we could reduce the ocean blip by, say, 0.15 degrees Celsius, then we would be significantly this would be significant for the global mean, but would still have to explain the land blip. Okay, so they're talking about if there are ways that they can statistically manipulate this data to get the outcome they want, then they're going to do it. But this is not the type of stuff you like to see. Could you imagine someone trying to land a rocket on the moon, sitting there saying, well, if we can just do this and that? You don't want to see that. And down here it says, it would be good to remove at least part of the 1940s blip, but we are still left with why the blip. Okay, once again, they're not trying to really explain it. They're just trying to erase it.
They're like, it would be good
right.
to remove some of this.
Now, you were telling me this is your favorite one. This one's for like real a forensic scientist would pick up on this one. In the movie Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore really harped on the disappearing Mount Kilimanjaro glacier, right? And they're saying that the Mount Kilimanjaro glacier is melting. Now, first of all, Professor Backflip, you were telling me that what's the one thing that you need? You asked me a question, what's the one thing you need for something to melt, right? And I thought about it for a minute, and the answer was things have to be warmer than the freezing point, right?
Yes.
Right? And so you were telling me that if you look up the temperature at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro where the glacier is, it never gets above freezing? You're telling me it's sub-zero temperatures up there all the time? So are they telling you that the laws of physics cease to exist on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro where things actually melt in sub-zero temperatures?
That's what they're trying to tell you.
Does that make sense
They
at all?
act like it would only start melting from the top to bottom very, very slowly.
Yeah, and so, but supposedly this is like 6,000 feet above the freeze line, and yet they're telling you that the glacier melts. But then you pointed out to me that this is Dr. Who'd you say this was? Dr. Thompson at OSU?
Yeah.
Dr. Thompson
And you're telling me that he's trying to make you believe that the glacier is melting, but you were pointing out to me that if this glacier was melting, he would be standing in what?
A puddle of water.
Puddle of water, right? This is forensic science.
I don't see no puddle of water there.
I don't see any water anywhere. So what you're telling me is this is actually a process called sublimation, that if you take dry air and blow it over an ice cube, it's going to disappear?
Yes.
And so this is something that you can experiment with in your own freezer, and it has nothing to do with warming and everything to do with the
We
dryness of
highly
air.
recommend you
Yeah.
do.
Wow. And so once again, you got these scientists keeping data from you. And so that's really fascinating. But then you said that in the leaked emails, they actually recognized that, and they said that I've heard, this is from Phil Jones again to Geoffrey Jenkins, I've heard Lonnie Thompson talk about the Kilimanjaro core, and he's got some local temperatures that we don't have access to, and there's little warming in them. Little warming, even if there is little warming, if it doesn't get above freezing, it still doesn't warm. But it says here that he thinks he thinks they are disappearing because of sublimation. Now, I can't remember Al Gore pointing this out in Inconvenient Truth. Can you? I would have thought Al Gore would have said, wait a minute, everybody, you got to understand this glacier isn't decreasing due to warming, it's due to sublimation. But he didn't tell you that. Isn't that kind of? Isn't they always say you got to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
This isn't the whole truth. He kind of like forgot out a critical part, and that's kind of sophistry, right?
And when he says, but he can't pin it down.
Oh, but he can't. Yeah, that's like a weasel word. But bottom line is, if you don't have temperature data above freezing, you can pretty much pin down that it's not melting, right?
Yeah.
Unless the laws of physics cease to exist in Mount Kilimanjaro. All right. Well, that's really kind of interesting. That's kind of disheartening because you were telling me this guy is a member of the NSA National Science Academy.
Yes.
And this is the kind of stuff that we get out of our national science academies?
More like the NSA.
That's pretty. That's
Sophistry company.
Yeah, sophistry. National Sophistry Association. Okay.
That'd be better.
Well, that's pretty good for this video. Let's wrap it up here. But that's some really fascinating and really concerning information. But once again, start a classroom rebellion. Start asking these questions. Don't be a sheep. Okay? Don't just take what you're told and believe it. Look into the data. Look into the facts.
And if you have data, go show your teacher, like, then why is this data like this?
That's right. Start asking the questions your teacher doesn't want you to ask.
And if a teacher can't answer a question, that's on them.
That's it. And then show them the data. But make sure you pass the data around the classroom so everyone knows the teacher's not telling you the truth. Right?
And Backflip, what do you want to say?
Backflip, you look like you want to say something. You've been over there chomping at the bit. What is it that you've got to say?
Go ahead and subscribe to the Teenage Super Sleuth so you do not miss.
You see, the climate change alarmists are not just scientifically wrong and often scientifically illiterate. They are insane.